The massive warship Eternal Dominion tore through Earth's blue sky like a metal dragon breathing fire. Its hull stretched for miles, casting shadows over entire cities as sonic booms rattled windows from Tokyo to New York. The ship's dark metal surface gleamed with strange symbols that pulsed with purple light, and energy crackling around its weapon ports made the air itself smell like lightning. Admiral Vextara stood tall on the command bridge, her four muscular arms crossed as she watched the primitive world grow larger on the view screen. Her reptilian skin was covered in battle scars, each one a story of another world conquered. Behind her, dozens of alien crew members worked at glowing control panels, their various tentacles, claws, and appendages dancing across holographic displays. "Another backwater planet falls to the Empire today," she hissed to herself, her forked tongue tasting victory in the air. The bridge buzzed with activity as her officers prepared for the standard intimidation protocol. Captain Thexamore, a hulking creature with 6 eyes and crystalline armor grafted into his flesh, approached with the preliminary scan results. "Admiral, their technology is laughably primitive," he reported, his voice like grinding stones. "No energy shields, no plasma weapons, no dimensional barriers. Their most advanced military equipment appears to be metal projectiles propelled by chemical explosions." Vextara's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Chemical weapons? How delightfully barbaric. What about their population centers? Scattered across the continents, no unified defense grid, no orbital platforms. They won't even see us coming until we're already here." Thexamore's multiple eyes gleamed with predatory hunger. "Shall I charge the intimidation array?" "Do it. Full power. I want every living thing on this mud ball to feel our presence in their bones." The ship's massive engines roared louder as it descended, their alien technology creating gravitational distortions that made birds fall from the sky and caused tidal waves in nearby oceans. Lightning danced around the vessel's hull as it broke through cloud layers, leaving a trail of ionized particles that would be visible from space for hours. On Earth's surface, in a small town nestled between rolling green hills, Park Ji-won sat on his porch enjoying his morning coffee. The 32-year-old park ranger had been watching the strange lights in the sky for the past few minutes, assuming it was some kind of military exercise or maybe a meteor shower. His radio crackled with confused chatter from nearby towns, but Ji-won remained calm. After all, he'd seen plenty of weird stuff in his job protecting the local nature preserve. The coffee cup rattled in his hands as the alien ship passed overhead, its massive shadow turning day into night for several minutes. Trees bent under. The pressure waves and car alarms started wailing throughout the town. But instead of running for cover like any sensible person, Ji-won just took another sip of his coffee and watched with professional curiosity. "Now that's what I call making an entrance," he muttered, reaching for his radio. "Hey, Heeman, you seeing this up there?" Kim Hyman was tending to her flower garden behind the visitor center when the radio crackled to life. The 28-year-old botanist looked up from her prized roses, just in time to see the alien vessel settling into a hover pattern above the town square. The ship's energy fields were making her flowers glow with an eerie blue light, but surprisingly, they didn't seem to be wilting. "Oh, wow, Ji-won. This is definitely not a weather balloon," she replied, wiping soil from her hands on her apron. "The energy readings are off the charts, but weirdly, they're not harming the plants. Actually, the daisies look perkier than usual." "Big, flashy kind or quiet observer type?" Ji-won asked, using their standard classification system for unusual visitors to their preserve. "Definitely flashy. Lots of lights, dramatic music playing from somewhere, and I think I can smell ozone from here." Hyamine paused as smaller ships began detaching from the mother vessel. "Looks like they're sending down a landing party. Want to go say hello?" "Already grabbing the good cookies," Ji-won replied, standing up and dusting off his simple khaki uniform. "Think they'll want tea or coffee." 20 minutes later, the town square had been transformed into something from a science fiction movie. The alien landing craft sat in the center like a metallic lotus flower, its petals still glowing with residual heat from atmospheric entry. Steam hissed from cooling vents, and strange mechanical sounds echoed from within its hull. The landing ramp descended with a hydraulic whine. releasing a cloud of purple mist that made the air shimmer. Heavy footsteps echoed from inside, as the alien delegation prepared to make their grand entrance. Admiral Vexitara emerged first, her ceremonial armor gleaming with embedded jewels from 1,000 conquered worlds. Energy weapons hummed at her sides, and her forearms carried various intimidating devices designed to strike fear into primitive species. Behind her marched a dozen of her finest warriors, each one a nightmare mixture of natural evolution and military enhancement. They expected to find cowering humans, perhaps some primitive leaders begging for mercy, maybe even some brave but foolish warriors making a hopeless last stand. Instead, they found Park Ji-won and Kim Hyemin sitting on a picnic blanket with a thermos of jasmine tea and a plate of homemade chocolate chip cookies. "Welcome to Earth," Ji-won called out cheerfully, waving, as if greeting old friends. "Hope you had a smooth flight. That's quite a ship you've got there. Bet she handles like a dream in hyperspace. You folks need directions to anywhere, or are you just passing through?" Admiral Vexitara's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as her universal translator struggled to process the casual, friendly greeting. The device sparked and whined, clearly not programmed to handle such an unexpected response to an invasion. The alien delegation marched into the town square with the precision of a conquering army. Admiral Vexitara raised her forearms dramatically as massive holographic projectors emerged from her ship, casting towering images into the sky. The first projection showed a beautiful green world, much like Earth, then suddenly erupted in flames as alien warships rained destruction from above. "Witness the fate of Kepler 442, she roared, her voice amplified by speakers that made the ground vibrate. "A world that dared resist the Galactic Empire." The hologram shifted to show another planet, this one covered in crystal cities that sparkled like diamonds. Massive energy beams lanced down from space, turning the crystal structures into molten glass in seconds. "The proud civilization of Zerion thought their shields could protect them," Vexitara continued, her reptilian features twisted in cruel satisfaction. "They were wrong." More images flashed through the air, space battles where entire fleets were vaporized by single shots, planets cracking open like eggs as their cores were destabilized. Billions of beings fleeing in terror as the Empire's war machines descended from the stars. Captain Thexmore activated another projector, displaying technical specifications of their weapons, energy readings that could obliterate mountains, shields that could withstand the explosion of stars, and engines that could push ships faster than light itself. "Behold the might of the Galactic Empire," Admiral Vexitara declared, spreading all, forearms wide as the hologram swirled around her like a tornado of destruction. "We have conquered 1,246 worlds. Our weapons can shatter continents. Our fleets blot out the stars themselves. Submit now, and your deaths will be swift." The alien warriors behind her activated their personal weapons, filling the air with an ominous humming sound. Energy crackled between their claws, and their armor plates glowed with stored power. The display was designed to break the spirit of any species before the first shot was fired. From the edge of the crowd, Lee Min-ho wiped his hands on an oil-stained rag and wandered closer. The 35-year-old mechanic had been working on Mrs. Park's broken hover mower when all the commotion started, and he still carried his favorite wrench in his left hand. His simple blue coveralls were marked with grease stains, and his hair stuck up at odd angles. "Oh, wow," he said, squinting at the alien weapons with genuine interest. "You're using quantum plasma coupling for your energy matrix. That's actually pretty adorable." The holographic displays flickered as Admiral Vexitara's concentration broke. "Adorable?" she sputtered, her translator crackling with confusion. "Yeah, totally adorable," Min-ho nodded enthusiastically, stepping closer to examine the weapon arrays. "Like seeing a kid's first science project. We used that exact same tech configuration about 3,000 years ago, back when we were still figuring out basic energy manipulation." He pointed at the glowing conduits with his wrench. "Real energy hog though, right? I bet you're burning through power cores like crazy, and the radiation leakage must be absolutely murder on your hull." Integrity over time. Min-ho walked around one of the alien warriors, completely ignoring the fact that the creature could probably vaporize him with a thought. "See, The problem is in your harmonic resonance frequency. You're running at about 47.2 terahertz, which creates all sorts of interference patterns. He tapped his wrench against his palm thoughtfully. Now if you adjusted that frequency by about 0.3 terahertz, bumped it up to 47.5, you'd get twice the output with maybe half the power consumption. Plus it would solve that nasty feedback loop that's probably giving your gunners headaches. Captain Thexmore's 6 eyes blinked in rapid succession. The human was casually discussing modifications to weapons that had taken the Empire's best scientists centuries to develop. Choi Soyeon emerged from the crowd, her arms full of library books she'd been carrying when the aliens arrived. The 29-year-old librarian pushed her glasses up her nose and studied the alien ship hovering overhead. The faster-than-light drives are really interesting too, she said conversationally, as if discussing the weather. Classic space-time folding mechanics, right? Very retro, though honestly folding space-time is so incredibly inefficient. She set her books down on a nearby bench and pulled out a small tablet, quickly sketching some diagrams. Have you guys tried dimensional shifting instead? It's much smoother on the gravitational wake, and you don't get all those nasty temporal echoes that mess with your navigation systems. Admiral Vextara felt her confidence beginning to crack like ice under pressure. These humans were discussing her civilization's most advanced technology, like they were critiquing antique furniture. More townspeople began gathering around the alien delegation, drawn by curiosity rather than fear. An elderly man who ran the local hardware store examined the alien armor plating and started muttering about interesting metallurgy but poor joint design. A teenage girl pointed out that the holographic projectors were causing unnecessary electromagnetic interference with the local Wi-Fi network. Kim Hyemin approached carrying her tablet computer, having run some quick scans on the alien technology. The energy signatures are really fascinating, she told Admiral Vextara politely. Though I have to ask, are you guys having trouble with quantum decay in your primary systems? Quantum decay? The Admiral managed to say. Oh yeah, I can. See it from here. Your power matrix is definitely deteriorating at the subatomic level. Probably started about 6 months ago, right? Little drops in efficiency, maybe some random system failures. Hyemin's voice was full of genuine concern. That quantum plasma coupling Minho mentioned, it's notorious for causing that problem. Park Ji-won joined the growing circle of humans, around the increasingly bewildered aliens. You know, if you're having technical difficulties, we'd be happy to help. We've got a pretty decent repair shop here. Lee Minho nodded eagerly. Oh, absolutely. I love working on vintage tech. It's like restoring classic cars, but in space. The alien warriors looked to their admiral for guidance, but Vexitara was staring in shock as these primitive humans casually discussed fixing technology that represented the pinnacle of galactic engineering. Her mighty weapons of conquest had become subjects for friendly technical advice. In the span of 20 minutes, her unstoppable invasion force had somehow turned into a neighborhood repair consultation. The town hall had been hastily rearranged to accommodate the alien delegation. Folding chairs were set up in neat rows, facing a small stage where Admiral Vextara now stood, her forearms gesturing dramatically as holographic legal documents floated in the air around her. The contract glowed with official seals from 1,000 conquered worlds, each one a testament to the Empire's absolute authority. Citizens of Earth, she began, her voice echoing through the modest hall speakers. You have witnessed our power. You have seen the fate of those who resist. Now comes the moment of choice. Captain Thexmore activated the holographic display, showing the standard subjugation contract in floating letters 3 feet tall. The document pulsed with an ominous red light, and alien symbols writhed across its surface like living things. This is the covenant of submission, Admiral Vexitara declared, her reptilian features set in stone. Every world that has fallen before us has signed this same document. Sign this and your world will be spared total annihilation. She began reading the terms, her voice growing more menacing with each word. Your people will serve the Empire as slave labor in our mines and factories. Your strongest warriors will fight in our gladiatorial arenas for our entertainment. Your brightest minds will design weapons for our continuing conquest. The hologram shifted to show images of massive mining operations on distant worlds, where beings of various species toiled under the harsh lights of alien overseers. Then it displayed enormous colosseums, where captured warriors fought desperate battles against mechanical monstrosities for the amusement of cheering alien crowds. Your natural resources will be harvested until this world is nothing but a hollow shell, she continued. The images now showing planets stripped bare, their surfaces scarred with enormous excavation sites. Your children will be raised as soldiers in our armies. Your history will be erased. Your culture will be forgotten. Admiral Vextara spread all four arms wide, her voice rising to a thunderous crescendo. This is not negotiation. This is not diplomacy. This is the inevitable result of meeting the Galactic Empire. You will sign or you will burn. The alien warriors behind her activated their weapons in unison, filling the air with a bone-deep humming that made the windows rattle. Energy crackling between their claws cast dancing shadows on the walls, and their eyes glowed with predatory hunger. The silence that followed stretched for several long seconds. The townspeople sat in their folding chairs, staring at the floating contract with expressions that Admiral Vextara couldn't quite read. She'd seen this moment 1,000 times before, the crushing realization of helplessness, the desperate bargaining, the final broken acceptance. Then Park Ji-won burst out laughing. Started as a small chuckle, but quickly grew into full-blown belly laughter that echoed through the hall. He doubled over in his chair, slapping his knee as tears started streaming down his face. "Oh my God," he gasped between chuckles. "Oh my God, you're actually serious. You really think, oh wow." He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Hyemin, come look at this. They want us to sign a slavery contract." Kim Hyemin looked up from her notebook where she'd been sketching the alien technology. "What, like an actual paper contract? With terms and conditions?" She started giggling. "Do they have a customer service department too?" The laughter was contagious. Lee Min-ho started chuckling, then Choi Soyeon joined in, and soon the entire room was filled with the sound of human amusement. Old Mrs. Kim was laughing so hard she had to hold onto her chair. Even the teenagers in the back row were doubled over with mirth. Admiral Vexitara's face darkened with rage and confusion. Her mandibles clicked furiously as she watched her moment of ultimate intimidation dissolve into what appeared to be a comedy show. "Silence!" she roared, her voice amplified to window-rattling levels. "You dare mock the Empire? You dare laugh at your own destruction?" The laughter gradually died down, though several people were still wiping tears from their eyes. Ji-won stood up, still chuckling as he tried to compose himself. Sorry, he said, holding up his hands apologetically. "It's just... this is really funny. Earth isn't what you think it is." He gestured around the simple town hall with its wooden floors and basic furniture. "This whole thing, the small town, the simple technology, us acting like we've never seen aliens before, it's all just, well, it's like a theme park." "A theme park?" Captain Thexmore's 6 eyes blinked in confusion. "Yeah, Earth is a nature preserve," Ji-won explained, his voice still warm with lingering amusement. "We're basically park rangers. The real human civilization is out there," he pointed toward the ceiling, "managing about 47 galaxies last I checked." Kim Hyemin nodded, pulling out her tablet to show some star charts. "We volunteered to maintain this little backwater as a vacation spot. It's peaceful here, good for stress relief. Most of us are on sabbatical from our real jobs." Choi Soyeon adjusted her glasses and looked at the alien delegation with curious interest. "We're kind of like... have you ever been to a historical recreation village? Where people dress up and pretend to live like their ancestors. That's basically what this is." Lee Min-ho scratched his head thoughtfully. "The real question is how you even found us. Our masking systems should have made Earth completely invisible to any external sensors. I mean, we're talking about technology that can hide entire solar systems from..." He paused, looking more closely at the alien ship's sensor array visible through the window. "Oh wait, you're using those old quantum resonance scanners, aren't you?" Admiral Vexitara felt something cold and terrible growing in her chest. "Old? Those are our most advanced sensor systems." "Oh honey, no," Minho said with genuine sympathy. Those things have been obsolete for what, 2,000 years. They can barely detect subspace fluctuations, let alone see through dimensional sea. Masking. Park Ji-won was now looking at the aliens with something approaching pity. You guys really thought you were invading a primitive world, didn't you? That's actually kind of sweet. The Admiral's world, her certainty, her power, her entire understanding of the universe, began to crumble around her like a house of cards in an earthquake. Kim Hee-min noticed Admiral Vexitara's 4 hands trembling slightly as the reality of the situation sank in. The proud alien conqueror looked like someone who had just discovered their entire life was built on a lie. Her reptilian features showed genuine confusion and something that might have been fear. "Would you like to see actual human technology?" Hyman asked kindly, her voice gentle like a teacher speaking to a confused student. "I think it might help explain things better than just talking about it." Admiral Vextara looked around at her warriors, who were all staring at the humans with a mixture of suspicion and growing uncertainty. Captain Thexmore's 6 eyes kept blinking in rapid sequence, a sign of extreme stress in his species. Yes, the Admiral finally managed to say. "Show us what you claim to possess." The group walked through the quiet streets of the small town, past the flower shop and the local cafe where a few elderly humans sat playing chess, completely unbothered by the alien visitors. It was such a normal, peaceful scene that it made the Admiral's massive warship hovering overhead look almost absurd by comparison. They climbed a gentle hill covered in wildflowers, following a winding dirt path that led to what appeared to be a simple communications tower. It looked like something from Earth's early 21st century, a basic metal structure with some small dishes and antennas attached. Paint was peeling from its sides and it looked like it hadn't been maintained in years. "This old thing?" Admiral Vextara asked, disappointment clear in her voice. "This is your advanced technology?" "Appearances can be deceiving," Hye-min said with a smile. She walked up to the base of the tower and pressed her palm against what looked like a rusty metal panel. Suddenly the air around them began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The Admiral blinked her 4 eyes rapidly, as reality itself seemed to bend and twist around the simple tower. The metal structure began to change, growing taller and wider, but not in any way that made physical sense. Parts of it extended into directions that shouldn't exist, folding through dimensions that the alien sensors couldn't even detect. What had been a simple tower was now a massive crystalline gateway that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. "By the void," Captain Thexmore whispered, his 6 eyes wide with shock. The gateway hummed to life with a sound like singing crystal mixed with distant thunder. Energy patterns that defied every law of physics the Empire knew began dancing through its structure. Colors that had no names painted themselves across surfaces that existed in 11 dimensions at once. Ships began materializing out of thin air around them, not arriving through normal space travel, but literally stepping out of nowhere like actors walking onto a stage. These weren't ships in any sense that the aliens understood. They were more like living things made of light and thought, constantly shifting between solid matter and pure energy. A vessel that looked like a butterfly, made of stars, landed nearby, its wings folding space-time as casually as a bird landing on a branch. Another ship resembled a geometric impossibility, a cube that was somehow also a sphere and a pyramid, all at the same time. Crews from these impossible vessels stepped out, and Admiral Vextara realized they weren't all human. There were beings, made of living crystal, who communicated through music, creatures that looked like walking trees but moved through solid matter as if it were air, and entities that seemed to be made of pure mathematics given form. All of them nodded politely to Ji-won and Hye-min like old friends. "This is Traffic Control Station 7, Ji-won explained casually, as if interdimensional gateways were as common as bus stops. "We manage interdimensional commerce for this sector of local space. Pretty quiet job, mostly automated these days." A flash of light appeared next to them, and suddenly a man in his 30s materialized out of nowhere. He wore a simple uniform similar to Ji-won's, but his eyes held depth that suggested he had seen things beyond imagination. "Hey, Ji-won," Captain Yoon Do-yoon said cheerfully, materializing beside them as casually as someone walking through a door. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. We've got a convoy of time merchants coming through in about an hour. They're carrying some volatile temporal cargo, so I wanted to make sure the local space-time is stable. He noticed the alien delegation and waved politely. Oh, hey there, first time visiting our sector. Also, Do-Yun continued, pulling out a device that looked like a smartphone but cast shadows in colors that didn't exist. The Andromeda office wants to know if you need any backup with your visitors. They detected some pretty aggressive energy signatures earlier. Ji-Won shook his head, grinning. Nah, we're good. Just some kids playing Empire. Nothing we can't handle. Admiral Vextara watched in stunned silence as more impossible ships continued to arrive and depart through the gateway. A vessel that appeared to be made of solid music played a brief melody as it passed through, causing the local flowers to bloom in perfect harmony. Another ship looked like it was built from crystallized time itself, its hull showing glimpses of past and future simultaneously. Her mighty warship, the Eternal Dominion, which had been the terror of 1,000 worlds, suddenly looked like a child's toy boat floating in an ocean of incomprehensible technology. The weapons that could level mountains seemed pathetic compared to ships that could casually step between realities. How? She whispered, her voice barely audible above the humming of the gateway. How is this possible? Choi So-yeon walked over and gently touched the Admiral's arm. Evolution, she said softly, her voice filled with understanding rather than condescension. We've been where you are now, the aggressive expansion phase, the need to conquer and dominate everything around you. It's completely natural for young civilizations. She gestured toward the impossible ships moving through dimensions, like fish swimming through water. We went through the same thing about 15,000 years ago. We thought strength meant conquest, that power meant taking whatever we wanted. But then what happened? Admiral Vextara asked, her voice small and confused. We grew up, Yemin said simply. We learned that real strength comes from helping others grow, not tearing them down. That true power is what you can create, not what you can destroy. Captain Do-Yun nodded, his expression serious but kind. The universe is a lot bigger and stranger than any of us imagined. Once you realize that, conquest starts to seem pretty pointless. Admiral Vextara stood frozen in the shadow of the interdimensional gateway, watching ships that bent reality itself come and go like commuter traffic. Her forearms hung limply at her sides, and her reptilian features showed the kind of exhaustion that comes from having your entire worldview shattered in a single afternoon. So what happens now? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The proud conqueror who had terrorized 1,000 worlds sounded like a lost child. Park Ji-Won walked over and offered her a steaming cup of jasmine tea from the thermos he'd brought. Well, that's entirely up to you, he said, with the same gentle tone he'd use with a confused tourist. You can keep trying to conquer the galaxy if you want, but honestly it's going to be pretty frustrating from here on out. He gestured toward the impossible ships, moving through dimensions around them. Most of the advanced civilizations out there are either our allies or under our protection. The ones that aren't advanced enough to be dangerous usually get mentorship, programs before they reach the conquest phase. Captain Thexmore, his 6 eyes still wide with shock, managed to find his voice. You mean we're not the first? Kim Hyemin laughed softly, the sound somehow both amused and sympathetic. Oh goodness no. We get maybe 3 or 4 aggressive young civilizations every century. Last year it was the crystalline hegemony. They had these amazing energy weapons that could turn stars into bombs. The year before that, the Machine Collective tried to assimilate the entire local galaxy cluster. What happened to them? Admiral Vextara asked, fear creeping into her voice. The crystalline folks are running a really successful renewable energy company now, Ji-Won said cheerfully. Turns out stellar engineering is way more fun than stellar destruction. And the Machine Collective, they're our go-to guys for computer problems. Amazing debuggers once they stop trying to delete organic life. Hyemin nodded enthusiastically. That's actually one of our mentorship programs. We help emerging civilizations transition from conquest to cooperation. It's surprisingly common. Species usually go through an aggressive expansion phase when they first develop interstellar travel. She pulled out her tablet and showed them a holographic chart. See, Most civilizations follow a pretty predictable pattern. First, there's the discovery phase. Wow, we can travel between stars. Then comes the territorial phase. This is our space now. Then the conquest phase. Everything should be our space. But then what? Admiral Vexterra asked, leaning forward despite herself. Then comes the growth phase, Choi Soyun said, joining the conversation. When you realize the universe is so vast and wonderful that trying to conquer it is like trying to own the color blue. You start wanting to explore instead of destroy, to learn instead of take. Admiral Vexitara looked around at her warriors, who were all listening intently. You're not going to destroy us? She asked, her voice still uncertain. Lee Minho burst out laughing, the sound echoing off the crystalline gateway. Destroy you? Why would we do that? You're not actually a threat to anyone, you're just, well, you're enthusiastic. Captain Doyun materialized beside them again, this time carrying what looked like a cup of coffee that sparkled with tiny stars. We remember being young and angry, he said, his voice carrying the weight of vast experience. Back when we were still planet-bound, the universe seemed so hostile. Every other species was either a threat to be eliminated or a resource to be exploited. Strength was the only currency that mattered. But that's not real strength, Soyuna added gently. Real strength isn't about who you can conquer or what you can destroy. It's about who you can protect, Hyemen continued. Who you can help grow, what you can create instead of what you can take apart. It's about making the universe a better place instead of just a bigger place that belongs to you, G1 finished. Admiral Vextara looked around at these strange humans who had treated her ultimate weapons like museum pieces, dismissed her threats like bad jokes, and responded to her invasion like adults dealing with a child's tantrum. The absurdity of the situation, the mighty Galactic Empire being offered tea and life advice by park rangers, suddenly struck her as hilarious. For the first time in her long military career, she began to laugh. It started as a small chuckle, but quickly grew into full-bodied laughter that shook her entire frame. The mighty Galactic Empire, she gasped between fits of mirth, terror of 1,000 worlds, reduced to students on the first day of school. Hey, everyone starts somewhere, G1 said warmly, his smile genuine and encouraging. The important thing is being willing to learn. So, want to find out how to really explore the galaxy? The next 6 months passed like a dream. The Galactic Empire's invasion fleet was quietly converted into exploration and aid vessels. Admiral Vextara, now simply called Vex by her human friends, traded her ceremonial armor for a simple uniform similar to what the park rangers wore. Her warriors became students, learning about dimensional engineering, temporal mechanics, and the delicate art of first contact with developing civilizations. The Eternal Dominion was retrofitted with human technology, its weapons replaced with research equipment, and its prison cells converted into comfortable quarters for rescued refugees. Captain Thexmore discovered a talent for xenobiology and spent his days cataloging new species they encountered on their peaceful missions. On a quiet evening, former Admiral Vextara stood in the same town square where she'd once demanded Earth's surrender. The interdimensional gateway hummed softly in the distance, and the stars above twinkled with the running lights of countless ships from 100 different species, all working together in the vast community that humanity had helped create. You know what's funny? She said to Jiwon as they watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and purple. We spent so long trying to be feared that we completely forgot how to be respected. Fear is easy, Jiwon replied, sipping his evening tea. Any thug with a big enough gun can make people afraid. But respect? That's something you have to earn. And fear is just borrowed time anyway, Hyemen added, joining them with her own cup. Eventually, someone stronger comes along, or people get tired of being scared, or they just find a way around you. But respect, that lasts. Above them, the stars twinkled with the lights of 1,000 civilizations, all learning, growing, and yes, laughing together under humanity's gentle guidance. The galaxy had become a place where strength meant lifting others up, where power meant having the wisdom to know when not to use it, and where the greatest conquest was conquering your own need to conquer. Vextara smiled, watching a ship full of young crystalline engineers heading off to help rebuild a world damaged by natural disasters. I think I'm beginning to understand what real strength looks like. Welcome to the neighborhood, Jiwon said simply. The end.